So I guess the question is, what do you do about a dog jumping on everyone in excitement when all else has failed?
I love this question so much.
Bouncy German Shepherd.
Bouncy German Shepherds. And I grew up with German Shepherds, so I know all about the bouncy German Shepherds.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So I love this question so much because this is so common. We have heard this time and time again, this idea that you have to ignore the behaviors you don't want and reward the behaviors you do. And so many people with jumping dogs will come to me with scratches and all the things because it is incredibly hard to, quote unquote, ignore a dog that has sharp claws and is jumping on you. So I totally get it. The biggest misconception and the biggest disservice I think that the positive only dog training community has done, and don't get me wrong, I love positive reinforcement. You have to reinforce the things that you like, and I love it. But I think one of the biggest things that movement did, one of the hardest things that it did to the dog training and dog owners alike, is that we have told people that they can't say no to their dogs. We have somehow warped this reality that we no longer say no to our dogs. And as a result of that, we have a bunch of dogs that, first of all, have never heard the word no for small things, in daily things. This idea that they're like, they have no concept because we work so hard to never say no to the dog. And then what happens, as it always does, usually around adolescence, is that the dogs start testing their boundaries. They start pushing the back on things. They start becoming little teenagers like, you're not the boss of me, and who are you to tell me what? And because we haven't actually primed them to understand what no means, we will inevitably lose our mind. And for dogs that are jumpers, it'll be out of pain. You're going to get jumped on by the dog. It's going to hurt. And you're going to go, oh, stop it. And you're going to yell at your dog. And it's going to blow your dog's mind because you've never done that. And so it just basically crushes and destroys your relationship. So the difference for me, and the reason why I always have a hard time with the subject of how do I get dogs to stop jumping, it's really hard for me because I don't know. A little bit of truth bombing there. I don't know how to fix a dog that jumps up on me because my dogs don't jump on me. Want to know the rest? Today on this very special episode, Q&A with Paisley. Paisley's in the house. She's joining us for today. I'm excited to get into answering all of your burning dog training questions. Let's get into it. Ready to have a calm and peaceful life with your dog without the stress of those fear-based behaviors? Hi, I'm Tracy, and I've been there, overwhelmed by all the conflicting dog training advice and unsure of what to do next. But now I help dog lovers like you simplify your life with your dog by building confidence naturally, fostering trust, and addressing those fear-based challenges. So, if you're ready, stop chopping those chicken wieners and let's get to it. Hello, my dog-loving friend. It's Tracy. Welcome to the podcast. Special podcast today because guess who's here?
Paisley.
I thought you were going to say who.
Oh.
Who?
Me.
It's Paisley. Paisley's here today in the podcast studio. We're hanging out together. I'm not going to say this. Okay, I'm going to say this. There might be a musical feature at the end of this podcast.
I thought we were just sound testing.
And I kept it. So be sure to...
That's a betrayal.
Betrayal.
Well, you can't tell someone you're sound testing and then keep the recording.
Of course I can. Well, in fairness, I thought when I said we're testing, you would do the typical testing, 1, 2, 3.
No, I took creative liberty.
You broke into song, so I'm keeping it. All right, welcome. It is April, and it is our April Q&A day. I will say that Paisley has been doing some posts inside the Living Beyond Obedience group, and she put a post up there that I didn't even know she did.
I just snuck it in there.
She snuck it in there, and it was a cute one because it said, if you... How did it go?
Let me check that.
Wait a minute. I want to get the wording right.
Let me get the resources.
How she did it.
Ooh.
Oh, now we're in the wrong group.
No, it's all right. It's all right. It's all right. I'll find the sources. I'll find the sources. I'm real speedy.
She's getting it. Uh-oh.
There, I got it. If you could corner a professional dog trainer without making it weird, what's the one thing you'd ask?
Without making it weird. That was the part that made me laugh. Without making it weird. And then I think Stacy came in and was like, I make everything weird.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's why Stacy's one of my people. She is one of my people. I love it that she made it weird. But I was like, what a great question. Without making it weird. If you could corner a professional dog trainer, what would you ask them? So a lot of people jumped in on that. And I thought, why not just, we'll do a podcast episode with that post. Now, we did have a question from Emma from last month that we didn't get to. So let's start with Emma's question, and then we'll get into the April questions.
Perfect. Okay, Emma's question. My 70-pound Belgian Malinois mix, Arlo, is afraid of sirens and loud noises. As a result, he follows me everywhere. He also will remain on his bed if asked, but only after exercise. Should I let him follow me everywhere?
No.
Firmly no. End of statement. Moving on. Those April questions.
This is going to be the quickest Q&A. Please make all your Q&As yes or no questions, and I will just answer them.
We've been told that we talk too much. So, as of today, yes or no answers only.
We're turning a new leaf. No, you shouldn't. No, it's a great question. So when we're talking about any sort of dog that is following us around, I think it's important to point out that there is a difference between dogs that want to hang out with you because you're a great leader, they like you because you are fun and engaging and you've been doing all the work that we talk about here at Beyond Obedience, and a dog that can't live without you, right? There's a huge difference. So one of the, I would say it's probably the trap that many of us that deal with fearful dogs can get into is once we start working with the dog, our very first step inside the Fearful Dog program is the dog learns to trust you. And we work really hard on building that trusting us. And we want to, at that beginning stage, be our dog's safety blanket. We want them to know that if we're around and we say it's fine, then you're fine. Then step 2 is the dog trusts the situations that you put them in. And if you're wondering, like, how do I get to all these things? That's, if you're asking those questions, you need to be with, Emma is in the Fearful Dog. So you need to be in that incredible program, the Fearful Dog Fearless Framework. We'll talk a little bit more about that at the end. But step 2 is, how do I get the dog to trust the situations I put them in? And a lot of us, if I'm being honest, we get stuck in step 2. We get the dog to a point where they're starting to act more confident. They trust us. They're trusting the situations that we put them in. And so we're like, this is good. This is fine. And if I'm being honest, a lot of it is because it feeds our ego, right? We feel good about the fact that the dog needs us. And there's a part of us that loves it a little bit, maybe a lot. And then we don't push for that step 3 with the dogs, which is the dog learns to trust themselves. That is actually the ultimate goal. So in this journey of building trust with a fearful dog, we want to make sure that we don't, just do a little heart check. Am I feeding into this? Is this something that I actually really like? Because the dog likes me, the dog feels, but I'm not gonna lie. Remember Mariah used to do that?
Oh yeah.
Mariah, whenever, cause she and I really bonded. And I used to laugh at the fact that if Mark came home, Mariah would come running down the stairs, see that it was him. And then she'd go, oh, it's you. And she'd go back upstairs. She's like, you're not it. Right. Did that make me feel great? Yes, it did. Did it make Mark feel terrible? Yes, it did, which made it even better for me. But it's not great for the dogs. So if you find that as you journey through the 3-step framework of building trust with the dog, and you're stuck at that step 2, we can talk about ways of, starting to build a little bit of a separation with us and the dog, encouraging them to be like, you're okay on your own. You can do this on your own. And once we get to that, that's when the actual dog and your relationship really blossoms. So longer answer to the answer, no.
Okay, so not just no.
It's not just no.
All right.
No,
all right.
no with a caveat.
Yes.
Okay.
Alrighty.
So now we're getting into the April questions for people that didn't want to make it weird, except for Stacy, who likes to make everything weird.
Starting strong without making it weird, I make everything weird.
I love Stacy.
I'd ask about jumping. I've learned that you're supposed to ignore it and only reward good behavior. I've worked on my relationship with my dog and it's gotten exponentially, big words, better. But when you've got an 80-pound German Shepherd that is jumping on you no matter what you do and actually hurting you, I've got scratches in my chest and back from her, it's gotten to a point where you're beyond ignoring it. So I guess the question is, what do you do about a dog jumping on everyone in excitement when all else has failed?
I love this question so much.
Bouncy German Shepherd.
Bouncy German Shepherds. And I grew up with German Shepherds, so I know all about the bouncy German Shepherds.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So I love this question so much because this is so common. We have heard this time and time again, this idea that you have to ignore the behaviors you don't want and reward the behaviors you do. And so many people with jumping dogs will come to me with scratches and all the things because it is incredibly hard to, quote unquote, ignore a dog that has sharp claws and is jumping on you. So I totally get it. I am going to give you the answer on what you are supposed to do, but I'm also going to tell you that a lot of this, and Stacy is inside our program. She's one of our amazing members of the Fearful Dog. So we can certainly talk more about it too, Stacy, if you want to inside the group. But what I am going to say is that the biggest misconception and the biggest disservice, I think, that the positive only dog training community has done. And don't get me wrong, I like positive only reinforcement. I like positive reinforcement. I shouldn't say positive only. I like positive reinforcement. I love positive reinforcement. You have to reinforce the things that you like, and I love it. But I think one of the biggest things that movement did, one of the hardest things that it did to the dog training and dog owners alike, is that we have told people that they can't say no to their dogs. We have somehow warped this reality that we no longer say no to our dogs. And as a result of that, we have a bunch of dogs that, first of all, have never heard the word no for small things, in daily things. This idea that they're like, they have no concept because we work so hard to never say no to the dog. And then what happens, as it always does, usually around adolescence, is that the dogs start testing their boundaries. They start pushing the back on things. They start becoming little teenagers like, you're not the boss of me, and who are you to tell me what? And because we haven't actually primed them to understand what no means, we will inevitably lose our mind. And for dogs that are jumpers, it'll be out of pain. You're going to get jumped on by the dog. It's going to hurt. And you're going to go, oh, stop it. And you're going to yell at your dog. And it's going to blow your dog's mind because you've never done that. And you've lost all your leadership points because now you're emotional, you're irrational, you're hard to follow because nobody follows an irrational, emotional leader. And so it just basically crushes and destroys your relationship. So the difference for me, and the reason why I always have a hard time with the subject of how do I get dogs to stop jumping, it's really hard for me because I don't know space. And as I mentioned, Stacy, you're part of our community. I'll talk more about this, and I'll actually do a video demo if you want. If I can find a dog that jumps. Do I have a dog that jumps?
Well, we don't have an 80-pound dog that
I don't have an 80-pound dog that jumps, but we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it at the Q&A, and I'll do a little demo of it inside there. but you actually want to like step into the space. That's the biggest thing that you can do. Step towards them as they jump. Usually what happens when you step towards them is they'll usually back up and then sometimes sit. And then we're going to reward that. So it's kind of similar to the whole, we're not going to put much energy and whatnot into the actual jumping, because jumping is energy. So if you're sitting there going, no, 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 and you're fighting them on it, that's energy and it's excitement. So it's somewhat similar to the ignoring. The only difference is we're not going to passively like turn our backs and ignore them. We're going to actually step into it, and we're going to be like a wall that basically is like, no, nuh-uh. And if it's your dog. So if they keeps coming at me, I'm going to keep stepping at them and be like, no, right? And I'm going to have very like deadpan, like, no, we don't do that. And then we're going to talk about where can we insert this idea of yes and no in quieter areas of their life so that it becomes just a soft no. Right now, it's going to be a bold no. You're going to be bold in your energy as far as like, I'm a wall and I'm going to step towards you. But very soon it can be like, don't do that. That's what you can work towards. So I hope that helped. And again, we can talk more about that inside the program, because you are one of our amazing members.
All right, we ready for our next question?
We're ready. Let's do this thing.
This next question's by Sheila. How do I know that I've done the best I can with recall for my Fearless Explorer? Hey, that's a dogginality title right there.
Hey, Sheila, using the dogginality. Paisley and I worked so hard on this, so we're like, yay!
Fearless Explorer. High prey drive Boston. Ooh.
A Boston. Ooh.
I need to consider the e-collar to give him the freedom to be himself.
Oh, that's a good question. You want to know something, Sheila? As much as I would love to say to you, here's the formula to know if you're ready for this equipment, there's no formula. And I will tell you that this is actually a heart check, emotion check thing, right? Because the energy and the emotion that you have around the idea of using an e-collar is coming from all of the outside influences, people telling you like it's awful, all the things you hear about how terrible they are and how they should be banned. And so it's making you feel a certain way. And because the reason why I say that is because for me, and I'm sure you're referring to, probably you just listened to the episode of Apollo and how I mentioned that I e-collar trained Apollo, and I make no apologies for it. You can fight me on it if you want to. But at the end of the day, that e-collar gave Apollo the freedom that he needed to express himself the way he needed to express it, and it gave me the safety and the confidence to know that I can get him back. And in my mind, there was no debate about it. There was literally no debate about it. I was like, this dog needs an e-collar. He needs to be able to run free. Not all of my dogs are e-collar trained. And they don't need to be. I have Noose. They don't need to be e-collar trained. They're not going anywhere. They don't have high prey drive. But I will say, I'm actually looking for Apollo's old e-collar, because I think I might have to e-collar train Levi because he's deaf.
Oh, yeah.
God love him, when he does see you, like when he's doing something and he can't hear you, when he does see you, like we have to wave our arms like idiots out on the yard, just like, hello. When he does see you, he does come running. Like he has great recall. He just can't hear. And so I find it interesting. Like for me, I wouldn't even think twice about putting an e-collar on Levi for helping him because he's deaf. Because if you think about it, if he's deaf and he wanders down towards the road and I'm screaming like an idiot going like, Levi, he can't hear me, he gets hit by a car, an e-collar would have saved his life. So I wouldn't even think twice about that. The reason why, though, is because I don't have any of that gobbledygook BS that's floating around the internet about how horrible it is. I know that there is downsides to negative reinforcement. I know that we can get, like, I know all of the, what do they call those? The contraindications or what? No, what's it called? What's it called when you take a medicine, but then they give you side effects, right? It's like weighing the pros and cons to taking a medicine, right? I know the cons to it. And I'm not saying that e-collars are everything and there's no cons to it. There 100% is. But I took the time to learn how to use the collar properly. I knew how to avoid having those phantom triggers and all of that stuff that can happen with the collar. So I think this is more about finding the right trainer, finding the right e-collar. Absolutely. They are not created equal, and I can help you with that. But finding the right trainer that can help you and then feeling great about it.
Because if you're comfortable with the e-collar, the dog is.
The dog is, 100%. 100%. So there's no, like, you've done all the work, right? Like, trust me, I didn't do all the recall work, like, make sure that he was trained on recall before I put Apollo on an e-collar. I literally was like, this dog has high prey drive, but also look at the body on him. Like, he'd love to run.
Buddy can run.
He can run, and I just so badly wanted him to be able to run. So I don't have the preconceived notions. I don't feel bad about the e-collars. I think e-collars are incredible tools. They're not for every dog. I wouldn't put them on every dog, but for certain dogs, it can give them a much higher quality of life. It's just a matter of finding the right person to help you to train it.
Yeah. All right. On to our next question here by Chris. When my dog barks at another dog on or off leash, how can I tell what her intent is? Sometimes it seems obvious, but I'm not sure. I'm actually also curious about this because I don't speak dog as well as my mom here, but there's literally times where mom could just, from across the house, she hears a bark and she knows it's like a delivery person or a squirrel. Like, she just knows based on the tone. And I'm like, I didn't even see that truck there, but yeah, okay.
That is true. That is true. Yeah, you can tell about the different barks for sure. And that is one of the ways I think that you can tell different intents. Pitch, tone, the frequency, and the frequency. The number of barks. Not frequency as the sound frequency, but the frequency, the number of barks. Like, if it's like a woof, 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 woof versus a woof, 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 kind of a thing, can tell you the intent. But if we're talking, if we're talking about barking, I can honestly say the best way to figure that out is to kind of start to pay attention to your dog's bark signals based on previous engagements. Meaning, like, I can tell my dog's intent changes when they're playing. Like, in the middle of a play period, if they're barking and whatnot, and all of a sudden they go from play to now I'm pissed off, you can tell. Was it just about barking? If my dog is barking at another dog?
If my dog's barking at another dog, how can I tell what her intent is?
Yeah. So we want to look at the whole picture and not just the barking. So first of all, if it's on leash, I don't allow barking on leash. There's that. So if my dog starts barking at another dog, I usually correct that. And the reason why I correct that is because when I'm on leash and we're walking together, I want my dogs to defer to me. So I'm not allowing any sort of communication to other dogs. I'll even tell Nigel to stop whining. Like, I'm like, stop it, like, knock that off. We're not doing that. And then try to get them to focus in. If we're talking about off leash, then we have to look at all the other things. So if they're in the yard or whatnot, then we're looking at, like, what's the other body language cues telling you? Are they kind of wiggly? How tight is the body? We can look at all the different body language signals, like how tight is the lips and all of that sort of thing. But a lot of it is, for me, if I'm being honest, a lot of it's trial and error, and it's because I've seen a lot. Like, you think about, my background. I've done vet tech stuff, so I've seen dogs in stressful situations in vet tech clinics and that sort of thing. But I've also watched play groups. I've done daycares. I've been in dog parks. So you kind of get to see what what a good intent dog body position looks like versus a bad intent dog body position. Generally speaking, it's going to be soft and loose if we've got good intent, and more stiff and upright if we have bad intent.
Alrighty. Next question here by Rachel. What's the best way to teach our fearful dominant dog to accept/become comfortable around guests in our house without him growling or wanting to go at them when they move?
Okay, so I think this is the one, and Paisley, correct me if I'm wrong. I think this is the one. I asked Rachel some other questions because the first thing that stuck out to me in the question was the fact that we said fearful and dominant at the same time. And to me, in my mind, and this is just the way people interpret things, but in my mind, those two things don't necessarily go together. I don't generally see a fearful, dominant dog. And I think I asked her what the difference was. What did I say? What makes him fearful and dominant?
Yes, you said what makes him fearful and dominant.
And then Rachel said,
all right. Just gotta find the comments here. Rachel replied, he's a rescue and fearful of anyone outside of our family unit, but instead of running away, he goes forward and is more dominant in general with our other dog and occasionally tries to be with the kids, etc. He's the type that if you give him an inch, he'll take a mile. Maybe I'm not labeling him correctly. LOL.
Okay. So there's a couple of things there. So he is dominant with your other dog and your kids, but fearful, what was it? Fearful of anyone outside of the family. Did I ask something after that?
You did indeed.
Okay.
There's a chain.
You know why? It's because as I'm reliving this, I'm like, what am I doing? Like I'm looking up, trying to figure it out. It's just, again, because we've got different descriptors for behavior that I normally wouldn't see together. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I just want to be clear on it. So what did I say afterwards?
All right. Afterwards, you said, okay. So what behaviors does he exhibit outside of the home? Is he still forward moving or more fearful?
Okay. And then what did she say?
I'm not sure what to say about that exactly. When it comes to strangers, he wants to approach and smell, but doesn't actually want to touch him. Doesn't want him to acknowledge or... Reading is hard.
Reading is hard. You should have stuck with singing.
Nope, not that either. He wants to approach and smell, but doesn't actually want them to touch him or acknowledge him. Any eye contact makes him uncomfortable and he'll growl. We practice no look, no touch, no eye contact, but some people have a really hard time with that. They do. People do have a hard time with that.
The hardest ask ever.
He is reactive when on leash. If we see another dog, lots of barking and lunging, fur up, etc. But at the place where we board him, sometimes she says after slow introductions, he's fine. Oh, sorry, okay. I have to click.
See more?
See more. He's scared of any object that is unfamiliar to him. He'll run away from a broom/shovel, etc. Is that what you meant?
Okay. So I'm hearing a lot of different things here, and this is why figuring out whether or not it's fear or whatnot is actually challenging. Because as I say, you might be seeing some, you know what I would love, actually? I would love to know if she took the doganality quiz.
We need to put a name on that dog.
I do need to put a name. I would love to see if she did the doganality quiz. And the reason for it is because, as I say, there's some contradictions here. So if I have a dog that is acting dominant to another dog, first of all, that can just be a thing on its own. We can actually take that and separate it from everything else, because dogs have their own body language and their own thing with one another. So it could just be that your other dog is less confident. This dog came in and just was like, you don't got it, so I'm going to get into it, kind of a thing, whatever. So that could be its own thing. The fact that he can also be a kind of a dominant present to your kids, first of all, that's a problem. And we don't allow that. We don't allow that. That would be a red flag for me of something that I would want to look at and work on. If we're talking about being scared of things like brooms and inanimate objects, I'm not sure if you rescued him, Rachel, but I would be like, is there a history there that we don't know about if we're talking about him being scared of things? Because honestly, it sounds like he is a dog. You know what? There's so many things I'd like to know.
Well, I can tell you asked a lot of questions.
I know, because it's really challenging. Because one, here's a couple of things that I would like to know, and maybe this is one of those things where Rachel and I maybe need to get together and have a chat, because I am a little bit concerned about his dominant behavior around your kids. But how old is he? How long have you had him? Did you rescue him? Does he have a history? All of that stuff. Because I don't like a dog being dominant around your kids, dominating your dogs. The idea that he goes up to a stranger and wants to smell them, but doesn't want them to touch him, which is perfectly fine. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. Everyone thinks that's terrible, but I don't necessarily want everyone touching me. But he wants to know the intel. If he was a dog that was doing the fear approach, like coming up and backing up and going another way, backing up and coming up another way, then I'd be like, yeah, he's unconfident and fearful and don't touch him. But if he's going straight up, bold, smelling and being like, I don't want you to touch me, that's a dominant dog. And we're talking about a whole different kettle of fish then, right? So that's why I think that's why I asked her so many questions, and there's so many things besides that I would want to know. And there's some red flags there for me that I would just want to kind of to get. But just to go back to your original question, what's the best way to teach our dominant dog to become comfortable around guests in our house without them growling or wanting to go at them? We don't. And until we kind of get to the bottom of what his intent is, Rachel, I wouldn't have him accept or become comfortable around it. I would be putting precautions on it. Like, he should have a drag line on. When people come in, you should be holding them. Rachel, we should probably talk. Let's just put it at that. Because there's a lot. I wouldn't.
We should have a chat.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. And as I say, the only reason why I'm kind of stumbling on this a little bit is just because of the dominance of it and the going after them and the growling. Because those are intimidation things. But if he's got intent behind it, then we want to make sure that we know what's going on. So this is one of those ones. What do you say that I do, Paisley? I'm dissecting this too much, aren't I?
You do get investigative.
I do get very investigative and want to know all the answers.
Yeah.
And then we could go on forever. Okay.
So you're saying you're going to put a pin in this one?
I think so, Rachel. And if you want some more insight and you maybe want to book a call with me, this would be certainly something that I would like to, I would love to sort of dissect with you and kind of get to the bottom of.
It'd be really interesting to see like a video, like do some video analysis.
I would love that. I love video.
She loves her video analysis.
I really do.
All right, moving on to the next question by Sarah. How do you break a dog out of reacting if it's become a dopamine addiction?
Sarah. Sarah was part of our boot camp. And I think that we discussed this idea. All right, so let's kind of break this down a little bit for anybody sort of following along and the idea of a dopamine addiction. So sometimes what happens, even no matter whether or not, the intent or the start of the behavior, it might have started off as fearful. But what happens is fearful dogs that learn that acting like a fool, like lunging and barking and doing all that stuff gets them what they want, which for fearful dogs is space, right? They don't want people in their space. They're overwhelmed. They need some time. So they learn that lunging, barking, and all that stuff becomes, it works. And that's how that gives them space. But they also sometimes can get, if they're not fearful, they're just doing it because they like the excitement of it, the adrenaline rush that comes from lunging, barking, and doing all of the crazy antics. What happens after adrenaline comes out is that we get a dopamine rush that helps bring the adrenaline down. And when we get a dopamine rush, dogs can, and people can get addicted to the dopamine. All of us that scroll on our phones are addicted to the dopamine that happens when we do it. So that was probably something that we discussed with Sarah inside the boot camp. So her question is, if we have a dog that is reacting and it has become a dopamine addiction, how do we break that? Which is a great question, and kind of like everything else that happens with addiction, it's not an easy fix, and it starts with having to break the cycle before it starts. And you have to get really sort of visceral in this when you're looking at this. Is again why video is great, because you can start to see where the dog starts to load up. And in a lot of cases, especially for dopamine addicted dogs, that start of adrenaline can happen before you even walk out the door. If they have practiced a pattern of going out for a walk and reacting to all the dogs that they see, especially if you're walking the same neighborhood all the time and they know that that punk lives over there and that stupid beagle that always barks is over there, when they realize that, they will actually start the loading up procedure or trigger, whatever it is, before you even leave. They know that they're going for a walk. They'll start to load up. You'll see it in their body language. Walking for them is like, it's almost like they're putting on their armor and they're puffing themselves up before that. I gotta get out there, go find that beagle, and I'm gonna go get him. They start before that. So that means you can actually start to break that cycle before you even leave the house. Now, that could look like a lot of different things. That could look like we practice, I'm going to get the leash, and then instead of going out the front door, I'm going out the back, and we're doing some work. We're going to do some environmental agility. We're going to do a scent trail. I'm going to get you using your nose, and then we're going to go out the back door a different way. Stuff like that. Just finding a way to break the actual cycle and the patterning that your dog is used to is one of the best ways to do it as a start.
Alrighty. Ready for our next question?
Yes.
Next question by Crystal. What's the best way to teach my new larger pup to be gentle with their smaller siblings? I currently try to make sure they are never really alone together and give many off, down, and gentle reminders. It's going okay, but I'm always worried.
That is a really great question. Generally speaking, what you're doing is great. Having an off switch for your pup is great. So when you're playing with your pup, you can do things like, start the play, you end the play, have like a, okay, enough command, which basically means enough. And then you would apply that to when, they're playing with the other dogs. Generally, I will say most dogs learn it on their own and they have to get the reprimand from the other dog. It's how dogs learn bite inhibition and all of that stuff, right? They start playing, the other dog goes, ow, too much, and then they walk away. And your dog goes, oh, okay, obviously that's too much and I don't get to play. Like it's reinforced by the fact that play stops if you're playing too rough. And those boundaries are set by other dogs. Now, generally what happens is we have puppies that are smaller than the dog, so it's easy for older dogs to be like, I'm not playing with you. A little bit harder when you've got littles and your dog is getting bigger than them. So the best way to do it is to make sure that when you play, you are starting the game, you're stopping the game, you're adding in those things where your puppy knows this means enough means enough, so that when you're watching that play, and you're right, they should never be left alone because accidents happen and it is all trial and error, right? Like that's how they learn. Somebody gets hurt, not badly, we're hoping, but they get hurt where they go, I don't like that. And then they shut it down. So your role in that is that if you see that it's getting too rough and the play isn't equal, right? If you feel like, and I happen to know this pup is Dragon. If you feel like Dragon is like, just in, and your other dogs can't get their head up. They're not, he's not doing the proper like give and take, then you need to step in and be like, that's enough. Send the puppy away. And here's what you're going to do. This is very important. You're going to ask the other dog. And by asking the other dog, I mean, you send Dragon away and then you see if the other dog gets up and goes right over and starts playing again, then play was agreed upon by both parties and everything's fine. If you stop the play and you send Dragon away for a sit for a second and the other dog goes, thank God, and they leave, that's your indication they had had enough. So you're doing all the right stuff. Make sure that you are just watching them at all times for sure.
All right, well, that's all I have on our little Q&A page here.
Hey, we did it. That's not bad. How far? We're only 41, I was going to say seconds. We're 41 seconds in.
Real fast.
We did that. So we did the yes-no version of this. Okay, well, that was a lot of fun. Should we just check one more time? Make sure no one else has actually gone on well. Because that happened to me the other time. I went in and then someone else had like put their question on as we were recording.
All right, double checking.
Anybody?
I did the wrong thing there.
I think Crystal was the last one.
Yes, Crystal was the last one.
Okay. I think that's it. Well, there you go. Do you have anything you want to say, Paisley?
Well, I believe all my questions were answered.
Asked and answered. Paisley loves it when I put her on the spot like this right at the very end. Like, so what else do you want to talk about?
What questions do you have?
What else did you want to talk about? I will say that just before we started this and we were like figuring out how to like get the questions off the phone, I was like, you could just look at your phone. And she was like, I don't know how to get to the group. And I'm like, what generation are you?
In my defense, I do a lot of the creative work and I do that from my computer. So I know how to navigate the computer Facebook. But I'm not someone who scrolls on my phone. I don't really use...
What generation are you?
I don't use social media very much. So when I went on my phone, I was like, how do you even find the groups on this one?
You're like Gen Z, right?
I think so.
Are you?
I think, because mine's the generation that did the dumb tattoo thing where we all started getting Z tattoos, and apparently that was like a gang sign or something like that. Like, it wasn't good.
Well, I will say this, as much as I, when she was younger, I used to be like all proud of the fact that I had the one kid that wasn't on social media and whatnot. And I think she was a much happier individual because of it. But now, as my business partner, I'm literally like, how do you not know how to use Facebook? Like,
although my thing with Facebook is that I like having my little pages here. I find with Facebook, and we kind of had that problem here, is that it keeps reloading. So as I was reading the questions, it would move, and I'm like, oh man,
where did it go?
I like my good and reliable piece of paper.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're doing the best we can. Hey, speaking of technical difficulties, if you are someone who hasn't received any of the emails for the Doganality, you can let me know. We have had an issue where a bunch of emails, 236 people, I might add, 236 people did not get their emails because their emails came back, quote unquote, bounced. And I'm not entirely sure why that is. If you're just somebody that's like, it's not for me, that's cool. But if you're wondering, hey, Tracy said she was supposed to send us all this information, because we did so much work on those emails. Like,
you work real hard.
So much good information on those Doganality emails that are supposed to help you. That was the whole point. So if you're someone that's like, hey, I didn't get those, please reach out to me at tracy@beyondobedience.ca and let me know. And I can contact my email place and be like, they actually do want to get these emails. And we can kind of get that sorted and settled for you. My apologies to that. I've had a few people reach out and be like, no emails have come. And I'm like,
where are the emails at?
But where are them at? But I have figured it out, and I am talking to my email provider, and they did fix. I had permission from, I think, 6 people so far, and to give the okay to actually, in fact, send them. So if that is you, please feel free to reach out. And this was a lot of fun. We'll do this again. What's coming up? We are still doing the live talks every month inside the Living Beyond Obedience group. And so you can always ask your questions there. We'll have the post up for more questions. If you liked this episode, can you do Paisley and I a favor and head on over to Apple and give us a 5-star written review, because it really does help push the podcast out to more and more people. If you're on Spotify, feel free to rate and leave us a comment over there. Let us know what your doganality is. If you're someone who's like, I need to take that doganality quiz, you're going to go to beyondobedience.ca/quiz. That's where you will find that quiz. Hopefully you'll get those emails, and then you can connect with us. Tell us all about your dog. I am loving, first of all, Paisley, I'm going to talk to Paisley about this. I am loving everybody connecting on Living Beyond Obedience about their doganalities. It's been super cool. Have you seen, like, people have been like, I have that dog, and people are like, oh,
I also share that dog personality.
Yeah, it's been awesome. And then I even saw some conversation, people like, I know this dog pulled my shoulder out and all that. And I'm like, I had that injury too. Like, I just...
Bonding
over our dog's doganality. That's exactly what everything is about. That's what we love. So in today's day and age, it's probably the best thing that you can do with your spare time.
I mean, I love personality quizzes.
I know, me too. Me too. I do too. We should probably come up with one that matches the doganality one, like what person, like for people.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how to do that, but we could. I know dogs. I don't understand people very well, but...
Well, we can make a compatibility quiz, see like what like dog personality your personality would be compatible with.
Ooh.
That'd be cool.
That would be cool. Okay, well now we're thinking.
Listen to us like making ideas that we do not know how to create. No idea how we would do that.
We have no clue how to do that. All right. Well, that's it for us today. Thank you very much for joining us for this special April Q&A episode. As always, get out there, my friend, and be the person that your dog thinks you are, because your dog thinks that you are amazing, and so do I. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next episode. I don't know when Paisley will be back.
I'm just here when people are confused and need answers.
That's right. Paisley will be here
I'm in the Q&As.
Hey, be sure to make sure you hear Paisley's musical rendition of this episode, because I'm adding it to the end. All right, bye!
My 70-pound Belgian Malinois mix Arlo is afraid of sirens.
We're doing this as a musical?
Oh, wait.
All right.
The podcast musical edition.
I'm here for it. All right, let's do this thing. Oh, and one more thing. This podcast is meant for entertainment and education purposes only, and is not meant to replace hands-on professional training. If you're really struggling with your dog, please reach out to a professional in your area. All right, I think that's it. Bye for now.